I think I'm entitled.
You want answers.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
President Trump, I'm so humble that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Very humble, really. Thank you. My honor.
That is very big praise for President Trump. That speaking to him was a black pastor in Michigan. This is at the Turning Point event held this last weekend in Detroit. And that pastor, stating it directly, said, Mr. President, we're thankful that you were here. Barack Obama never came, as the pastor said, to the hood. Well, he would go to the big fundraisers, but he never got with the people. Now, this Turning Point event was bringing together all people of all stripes, colors, ethnicity, only two genders, and some differences in political sway, but at the same time, they're looking for, what do we do to save America? That's why they were there. And, of course, the keynote speech and the keynote address all presented by President Trump, and he was the main draw. But there are many others. We're going to break some of that down for you as we move forward. But since they were all gathering in Michigan over this weekend for Turning Point to re-emphasize the value of saving our nation, let me take a moment to remind you of something coming up locally. I strongly encourage you to attend. And I can get you free tickets. I plan to be there. In fact, I will be there. June 25. Here we are, June 17. It's not that far away. June 25, Saving America 2024. Hosted by News Talk STL and the Heritage Foundation. The guests from the Heritage Foundation will be Joel Griffith, focusing on our economy, and Zach Smith, focusing on the courts. This is going to be at the St. Charles Funny Bone, June 25th. Doors will open at 6:30. How do you get the free tickets? You simply go to newstalkstl.com. Newstalkstl.com, put in how many you need. You can get up to 4 at a time. We need the tickets just to make sure we have a head count and can accommodate everyone. But it will cost you nothing. You need to be engaged. This is your opportunity. June 25th, St. Charles Funny Bone, Saving America 2024. Thank you for joining us. Here we are, hour number 1 of Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. When we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. I see many of you do. I see that many of you can't watch while we're actually doing it. You pull it up later via podcast. I'll tell you in a moment how to do that if you're not aware of it. But again, you can watch the program. How do you do that? News Talk STL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Or Larry Connors USA, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. And if you miss anything of any part of either hour on any day, you can always go to LarryConnorsUSA.com or Larry Connors USA Facebook. And you can pull up that particular date, the audio and our video. And I thank you for doing so, and then push the button that you like. I appreciate that. And certainly push the button to share. Get the message out to more. So let's go back to Michigan this last weekend as President Trump was addressing the crowd at Turning Point.
Michigan was better off with Trump by a lot. You were doing great. Companies were moving back, and the car companies weren't moving out. And Joe Biden and his cronies in Washington got rich by selling off Michigan jobs and selling out Detroit. That's what they did. The numbers are crazy. The food numbers, the energy numbers. Yet Joe Biden has no plan. He's got absolutely no plan. He doesn't even know what the word inflation means. Joe Biden still supports no cash bail and sanctuary cities. He's responsible for the deaths of countless African Americans from crime, and he also devastated black families in 1994 with the crime bill. Biden came up with that. Super predators, the black people have to remember when they go to vote. That was 1994 crime bill. Super predators, Joe Biden.
And Hillary Clinton, I should add. They were both pushing that. And the fact that they still push no bail in many cases. You want to know why you have crime rampant in this country? Look to the progressives, or as I say, progressives, the lib mob, which wants to do away with all laws and statutes and wants to do away with everything except chaos. And that they're very good at pushing. Now, one of the others speaking the other day at the Turning Point USA event in Michigan, former HUD Secretary under Trump, Dr. Ben Carson.
American people are starting to wake up and realize that what they're trying to do is actually divide and conquer, driving wedges between us on the basis of race, age, income, gender, political affiliation, religion, anything that you can imagine. Jesus said it best, a house divided against itself cannot stand. They know that. And that is something that you will see with Donald Trump. He does not pit one group against the other group. His philosophy is that a rising tide floats all boats. And that's what you will continue to see. So don't get bamboozled by the left and by the media who are going to try everything they can to demonize him. I'll tell you who the real demons are. They're the people who are trying to use our judicial system to put down their political opponents. That's the real threat to America.
That it really is. And we all see that with the, quote, convictions of Donald Trump. And they're going to use that to their best play moving forward with the election. They got what they wanted. They got, quote, convictions, 34 felony counts against Donald Trump. But it has been so fabricated, repackaged, it is outside the issue of law, but it will take a time for appeals to go through. But even Politico is pointing out, prominent black officials are warning the Biden campaign the president's efforts to keep black voters firmly and enthusiastically in his electoral coalition are not working. Biden's campaign efforts are not working, and time is running out to get his message across. So they're going to continue to yell louder and louder that Trump will put you back in chains, as Biden said at one time. I want you to hear from Michigan Congressman John James from Turning Point.
I want to take y'all back 8 years ago when President Trump came in. President Trump came in and he said, look, what do we have to lose? It's funny because Joe Biden showed us. We were on the right track before Big Gretch shut down the economy and massed our babies. We were on the right track before Joe Biden opened up our borders and let 10 million people in here illegally, and also of the 584 people in the FBI terror watch list, 84% are crossing over the northern border. America was, compared to today, much greater than it is now under Joe Biden. But guess what? Help is on the way. Because wouldn't it be great to have a president who knows how to make America great again?
Yes, it would be. Now, he mentioned the northern border. I have discussed that with you previously. Yes, we have most of them coming from the southern border, but I said we've got to watch the northern border as well. Now, you try to go from North America into Canada, they will catch you. They will incarcerate you. They will send you back. But we got a lot of folks realizing, okay, everything's jammed up at the south. There are not that many border agents in the north, so we'll get into Canada and we'll sneak our way into the U.S. from the north. And then if that doesn't work, of course, the cartel uses one of their high-speed cocaine boats that they use to transport cocaine or humans for trafficking, or they simply take one away from someone at gunpoint, maybe leaving them dead, and then use it to load it up with cartel members, and they run ashore at La Jolla Beach. People are sunbathing, enjoying a beautiful day, and all these guys jump out in black and disappear. Some have cars waiting. Now, do you suppose that those folks are going to be coming here to do good for our nation? No, of course not. Joe Concha, Fox News analyst, said, when I look around and I see the reaction from some of the left, therein lies another story.
I saw an X post from Don Lemon, the former CNN anchor, scare quotes, and he basically said it was impossible for him to believe that Donald Trump could possibly have that kind of black support in places like Detroit, with Don Lemon implying the whole scene you see, on your screen was likely staged somehow. It wasn't, and the momentum behind Trump is quite real. Not only among black voters, by the way, but Hispanic voters, independent voters, women voters. And according to a forecast released by The Economist over the weekend, Donald Trump now has a 69% chance of winning back the presidency, while Joe Biden's chances are 31%. That's less than 1 in 3. We've never seen numbers like this before for Trump.
Never before seen those kinds of numbers. I'm looking at a piece from another poll group, 538, projecting Trump winning 50 out of 100 times, with Biden winning 49 out of 100 in simulations. They did an update and doing it again. Then Trump was winning 52 out of 100, Biden winning 48 out of 100 times, another simulation. All of these are simulations, but they're based on a combination of polls and campaign fundamentals. So they had 1,000 different simulations run. Trump came out on top in 509. Biden won 487. No winner in 4 of the simulations. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk noted this is the first time Trump has, in any of his 3 campaigns, led a 538 forecast. But there's more to come. Biden campaign now planning to spend $50 million through the end of this month, all focusing on Trump's conviction. You're going to hear that ad before we wrap up this hour. And next hour, we'll have more on the Turning Point rally in Michigan. And one of the issues that was highlighted over the weekend, Trump's choice for vice president.
Well, the Veep stakes are on. Speculation continues to swirl over Donald Trump's possible picks for vice president on the Republican ticket, and the former president giving another hint in the battleground state of Michigan over the weekend.
Byron Donalds is an incredible guy. Incredible guy. And I notice he happens to be on the list of potential vice presidents. Would anybody like to see him as a vice president? I notice your name is very high on the list. That's good. You should be on the list.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds was sitting at that same panel table with Donald Trump and obviously being singled out at that moment by Trump. So Byron Donalds, of course, is just trying to do his job and, do the best he can for America. There's several other good candidates, he will admit, that are in the running for VP. But when he was interviewed by Fox News this morning, they kept pressing and pressing. Can you tell us what you told the president? Where you stand? What's going on? And Byron Donalds playing it close to the vest.
So it looks like the president is going to every single community, reeling black voters in, and you're on that list. Have you had any conversation with the president about being vice president?
Maybe not. I'm not gonna tell you guys that.
Well played.
I'm gonna keep that to myself. Look, I think President Trump's going to make a great decision, but obviously it's his decision alone. I'm just going to do my job, campaign for him, work hard for him, because the country needs him back as president. It's that simple. We'll see what happens by the time we get to the convention.
Yeah. So, are you being vetted? Have they asked you to give them up paperwork and stuff like that?
Oh, you guys don't stop with the questions.
Well, I'm just curious.
Maybe. I appreciate his candor and reaction like that. Just maybe. Didn't say no. Didn't say yes. Maybe. You can take over with your own conjecture at that point. Now, again, one of the other candidates that is possibly in the running for vice president would be Marco Rubio. Now, again, he's from Florida. Byron Donaldson from Florida. And Donald Trump is from Florida. Questions arise right away. Can you have both the president and vice president from the same state? We've been down this road before. I don't have a lot of time to spend on it, but the bottom line is the state of Florida association with either one of them will not be a deciding factor for Trump. I am looking at some of the new polling that shows a real fallout from the Trump conviction, according to Politico. Donald Trump's criminal conviction, according to Politico, didn't instantly up the 2024 presidential election, or race, I should say, but the results of a new survey should be worrying for Trump. That's what they claim. Here's what they state. In the weeks since the verdict, both parties have sought to shape the public's initial reaction, Republicans largely denouncing it, of course, Democrats citing the result as further evidence that Trump is unfit for office. And they said to figure out how this unprecedented movement is being processed by the electorate, Politico partnered with Ipsos in a new survey. And they point out among the most notable findings in their new survey, 21% of independents said the conviction made them less likely to support Trump, and that it will be an important factor in their vote. So in a close election, obviously, small shifts among independent and swing voters could determine the outcome. Based on that, they think that could be trouble for Trump. Marco Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio, Florida, we mentioned a moment ago, was also at the Turning Point Convention in Michigan over the weekend.
Donald Trump doesn't need to be in politics. He's made a lot of money. He has a lot of things to enjoy. He's got a great family. Frankly, I want to be honest with you. Sometimes I thought, why is this guy doing this? He had a great life. He didn't need to be in politics. There's only one reason why someone like him would be in politics, with all of these hassles, with all of these things he has to put up with. There's only one reason. Because he loves our country and he wants to save it from people that want to destroy it. A lot of these people that get into politics and they make money from it, they leave richer from politics. Donald Trump is one of the few, maybe only people I know that politics has cost them money.
Senator Marco Rubio, and put him and his family under a microscope and constant assault because the DOJ has been weaponized by the Biden administration. Everything Rubio said is correct, and I'll remind you how far apart Rubio and Trump were at one time when they were running against each other. You can't forget Trump referring to Rubio as little hands. That was not anything that made Rubio feel great, or how he chastised Senator Ted Cruz. But they're all trying to come together to get America back on the right track at this point. Coming up in the next hour, I'm going to have as a gift George C. Landreth, president of the Frontiers of Freedom, his book, Let Freedom Ring Again and Again. That's next hour. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
My sponsor, Wellington Environmental, has helped thousands deal with hazardous materials. Hospitals, offices, schools, even homes. Here's something new. Wellington now offers dustless blasting. This is just like sandblasting, but without all the dust and emissions. Wellington uses everything from ground glass, walnuts, corn, even dry ice pellets. One university had Wellington remove their parking lot striping because dustless blasting is fast and it does not damage the concrete. So as a business or homeowner, I'm sure you could use this process. Industrial tanks, swimming pools, graffiti on buildings. And in fact, Wellington is blasting a Texaco station that will be revised as an historic building. Check the website for details and photos. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Horace, Americans individually have lost over $4,000 in income and over $7,000 where you have a household with both parents working.
It shouldn't be, it's the economy stupid. We should just say, stupid! It's the economy. Unbelievable the devastation that Americans are feeling.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
If you haven't been to Lit Cigar Lounge in the district at Chesterfield, you're missing a great experience. Premium cigars, drinks, spacious seating, TVs in every direction. This and more explain why Lit was voted Best Cigar Lounge 2 years in a row. Now you can be at Lit and order Napoli Brothers pizza and pasta delivered to you. In fact, Napoli's just a few doors down. A coal-fired oven giving a unique taste. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the Chesterfield district.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli C. And it's no surprise to me nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli C is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course Napoli C is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton, and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
This is News Talk STL.
And where down we go, oh, 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 where down we go, oh, 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 so where down we go, oh, oh, way down we go.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
And new this morning, multiple sources familiar with the White House's plans tell NBC News that President Biden is set to take executive action as early as Tuesday to protect hundreds of thousands of undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation.
That is, of course, one of the latest efforts by Joe Biden to infiltrate our land with illegals. Now, this is a delicate balance here. If you have spouses, if someone illegally comes into the country and they marry someone, do you want to take the illegal spouse and deport them? If they have children, what are you going to do? I mean, there are a lot of things to work through here, and I don't think one plan will fit everything. But we do need to start looking at legitimate immigration reform. I'm talking about legal immigration reform. What his plan, though, is just to keep the train rolling. We're just going to continue to suggest that we're going to make sure everybody is protected. I don't care how you got here, what your claims are, if you're claiming asylum or you just want to come in and cause chaos. You're welcome in our nation. The hell you are. You're not welcome. We identified last week, according to Border Patrol, at least a dozen former and possibly active ISIS members that were let into our country under Joe Biden. Border Patrol did the job they are assigned to do right now, get some names and information, and have to give them a parole sheet, let them go ahead and roam about the country while they fully vet them. Does that sound right? We're going to let you go, and then we're going to look, see if you got any warrants or anything else on you. much less if there's anything outstanding from Interpol or if you're on the terrorist list. Then you got to go find them and get them back out. The Biden administration is claiming we got everybody that came in that way. We got them. I would not believe that for 1 second. And that doesn't count the ones that had come across at the dead of night at non-entry points that have been designated. But there are going to be changes, obviously, coming out tomorrow officially from the Biden administration. Donald Trump says the issue is we're not dealing with illegals as we should, and it's got to change.
But DACA, we want to take care of DACA, and I hope we will. We need the support of the Democrats in order to do it, and they might not want to do it. They talk like they do, but I don't think they do, but we're going to find out very soon. We want something that is very, very tough and strong in terms of the border. We need to end chain migration, and we need to cancel the terrible visa lottery. And those are the 4 pillars that I talked about the other night. We call them the White House framework, a plan that will finally bring our immigration system into the 21st century. The Republican position on immigration is the center, mainstream view of the American people with some extra strength at the border and security at the border added in. What we're asking for and what the American people are pleading for is sanity and common sense in our immigration system. We want immigration rules that protect our communities, defend our security, and admit people who will love our country and contribute to our society.
Those are the ones we want. But even then, they should have to come in legally. We had a very good, and still do, legal immigration process. It was not broken. There were things in there that could be could be changed slightly so it would work better in some instances. One of them being the DACA issue. That's the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. There was a notice of action issued by the U.S. Citizen Immigration Services that would grant deferred action under the Childhood Action Program. It was going to allow individuals who on June 15th of 2012 were presently in the U.S. with no lawful immigration status after they had entered the country as children at least 5 years earlier. They were given a 2-year period of deferred action from deportation and be eligible for employment authorization document, a work permit. November of last year, an appeal was brought before the U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals to determine whether a previous federal district court order that would terminate the form of DACA based on it being a violation of federal law be upheld and implemented. It's basically what you've heard Obama and others refer to as the DREAM Act. And again, this is a very difficult situation. When children are taken somewhere by their parents, they don't have any choice in what they can do or not do. Then they're here, they're in our community, they become citizens. Some of them, outstanding. They start their own businesses, they graduate, they have their own families. I mean, where are you going to find a point to break that apart? You can't, not in any humane way. It gets back to the first issue, shut the border. Shut the border, then let's start dealing with what the issues are which we have with the illegals currently in the country. The Red Cross often is standing as a symbol of, what can be done to help people in need. I remember my dad had a real difficult time with the Red Cross where he really got upset, and this was during World War II. He said the Red Cross truck pulled up, and we thought, we're going to get, certain aid and so forth. And they had cigarettes, but they were selling them rather than giving them. And he said, I thought they were supposed to be helping us and giving. They're trying to take money from us. We don't have any money with us out in the field. He really turned against the Red Cross. Now, I know there have been a lot of good things and bad things. associated with the Red Cross. But I want you to hear a report filed by a Fox reporter on what the Red Cross has been doing assisting illegals get into the country.
That's Spanish. The OIM is what it says on his vest. That's Spanish for the IOM, the International Organization of Migration. That's the migration arm of the United Nations. You can see here that he was kind of trying to turn away. He didn't really want to be on camera.
Tienes que preguntar primero antes de grabar a las personas, por favor.
Repite.
Ask me.
Oh, permisión. So that's what's going on. He's from the OIM. That's the United Nations out here giving all sorts of aid. It is clear that the intent of these organizations is to direct the masses of illegal aliens to the United States. Consider this map, which shows the route from Colombia to the United States and marks 12 U.S. border crossing points with flags. Many similar maps are distributed by other organizations. This map, distributed by the Red Cross, shows the route from Panama to the United States.
Showing them how to get from Panama to the United States. Now, the map could be available in various options, but if the Red Cross is helping pass it around, well, then that tells you that I don't think they're doing the best for our nation. And I know some people that work for the Red Cross. I have supported some of their causes, blood drives and everything else. If this is where they've been going with it and how they're using things, then I do have an issue. According to the Red Cross, their federal charter, our relationship with the federal government is the way they read this. The relationship between the Red Cross and the federal government is unique. We are an independent entity, organized and exists as a nonprofit, tax-exempt, charitable institution pursuant to a charter granted to us by the U.S. Congress. Unlike other congressionally chartered organizations, the Red Cross maintains a special relationship with the federal government. We have the legal status of a federal instrumentality to carry out responsibilities delegated to us by the federal government. And on and on. The question, of course, is how much money are they getting from the federal government? How's it being spent? There's been stories circulating for some time that the Red Cross only spends 9% of money donated for actual charitable functions. 9%. Out of billions, and the CEO getting something like $600 million a year. A lot of that's been debunked, and I can't constantly stay on top of it. But I'm just saying you should always double check when it comes to giving to charities. And now that I hear the Red Cross is helping hand out maps to how people should get to the U.S., I've lost a lot of that. Well, we have another issue coming up, of course, and we're going to talk about it in the next segment, and that is the gun laws and Second Amendment issues that are in front of us again. We know where Trump stands. We also know where Biden stands. But the vice president, Kamala Harris, has taken it upon herself to make some very clear points as to there's a difference between those of us who believe in the Second Amendment, want to protect it, and those on her side that, yes, we do believe in the Second Amendment, and yet, the caveats, the snares, the traps, the misdirections, they actually want to take your guns away. They will not completely admit it, but that's really where they want to go. We will get into that and the latest with Israel and Netanyahu when we continue. And don't forget that ad campaign that Biden is now spreading around. Stand by, please.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that right after a hailstorm, new roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business, helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
Hey, this is a great time to get fantastic deals at Ackerman Toyota, #1 volume dealer in the area. Why? Very simple. They want to make you happy. They'll come up with a deal that puts you in the driver's seat. You'll be smiling as you drive off the lot. You got a trade in? You're going to get top dollar from Ackerman. Looking for a premium used car or truck? Ackerman is the answer. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
He's really losing control.
People in China have been asking me about people mowing each other down in the mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
He is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this.
Illegal immigration is crazy right now.
The United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
And NewsTalkSTL.com.
My sponsor, McGuire Moving, has job openings for drivers and movers, offering competitive pay. You can be off every night if you want or on the road. You're off every other weekend. Full benefits, insurance, paid vacations. But McGuire is a very good company. So here's a very important requirement. You must excel in making customers happy. Full or part-time job? More information, go to McGuireMoving.com. Apply online at McGuireMoving.com/careers.
This is News Talk STL.
I've done 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. I came home with a brand new plan. I take the seat from Colombia and Mexico. I just planted up a holler down Copperhead Road. And now the DA's got a chopper in the air. We got screaming like I'm back over there. I learned a thing or two from Charlie, don't you know? You better stay away from Copperhead Road.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
And it is a false choice to suggest that you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and we need an assault weapons ban. I support the Second Amendment, and we need universal background checks. I support the Second Amendment, and we need red flag laws.
No, Kamala Harris, Vice President. You can't say you support the Second Amendment, and yet we need all these other things. Many of those are slippery slope. Now, I might find agreement on a couple things. Red flag laws are one issue where legitimately, if it's properly exercised, then, yeah, we may prevent someone who may be bent on a rage attack for someone if someone is aware of it. But notify the police at that moment. But the way it's interpreted now by many red flag law, my neighbor, he's got a lot of guns. I'm worried about him. Well, they could come on and take the guns away just based on that in some cases. We also had them jumping into assault rifles and everything else as they were doing bump stocks, and they don't even know what they're speaking of. So they say, I'm for the Second Amendment, but I really want to take all your guns away. That'll be the end of that Second Amendment. Hillary Clinton had even stated herself when she was running against Donald Trump. She said, the Second Amendment isn't really all people think it is. Well, I know exactly what it is. The right to bear arms, period. Donald Trump brought that issue up and others that he was at the Michigan rally for Turning Point.
I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, so important. I will tell you it's under siege. It's under siege, but we will uphold. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. Our goal will be One-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and a thing called voter ID. Voter ID. One-day voting, paper ballots, voter ID, and by the way, we added a new proof of citizenship. It would be nice if you could prove yours.
Yeah, all of those are good. In addition to his beginning statement saying Second Amendment, don't be messing with it. There are changes underway in Israel, major changes, but how it's going to break out is yet to be seen. A CNN report.
An Israeli official says Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has disbanded the war cabinet, which was responsible for key decisions relating to the Israel-Hamas war. It was formed in the days after the October 7th Hamas attacks. The decision comes after opposition leader Benny Gantz withdrew from the body last week. Meanwhile, Israel's military announced a daily tactical pause along a specific route and specific times to allow for humanitarian aid into Gaza.
So they are still allowing some humanitarian routes at different times and days for humanitarian aid. But the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are still going into Rafah, seeking out Hamas terrorists, and, of course, trying to find and rescue more of the hostages. Good on all points. A CNN reporter evaluated how this change in the cabinet will actually affect things on the ground.
In the war cabinet, there were always three men who were basically making the decisions, which was the Prime Minister, the Defence Minister, and the opposition leader, Benny Gantz. Now, of course, since Gantz has resigned, saying he's in protest of the fact there's no plan to get the hostages out, no day after plan for Gaza, and not a plan to get people back to northern Israel as well who've been evacuated, it is now effectively a two-person war cabinet. So what he has done is he's disbanded that, and he has said, according to an official in his office, that the decisions when it comes to the war in Gaza will be made on a security cabinet basis, which is a wider cabinet basis. Also saying or experts are saying that this kind of avoids the pressure that was coming from the far right of his coalition. Some of those far right elements wanted to be part of the war cabinet. So by disbanding it, potentially he has got rid of that problem as well. He doesn't have to accept or reject them, because he does have a balancing act when it comes to his coalition at this point. But they do say within the Prime Minister's office this won't make a difference to actually making the decisions on the war in Gaza, and if they have to, they will have smaller groups to decide tactical changes.
So smaller groups deciding tactical changes, not the war cabinet he's had in place. And as you heard, and if you followed an understanding and what she was pointing out, they are not going to have to fill it with maybe far right, who would be way too aggressive when Netanyahu is trying to walk the tightrope, and yet at the same time making sure Israel fully destroys Hamas. Netanyahu is scheduled to come to the U.S. to speak to a joint session of Congress in July, next month. Then there's backlash building already. First of all, the Hamas supporters in the U.S., the PLO supporters in the U.S. are all saying we will shut down D.C. in July when he comes. I think the date is July 24. I don't have it right here in front of me. But they plan on shutting D.C. down in totality. Now, behind the scenes, former Speaker Nancy Pelosi is fanning flames of discontent over Netanyahu coming. It was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries that steered the caucus through a stormy debate on the topic that's divided the party with increasing intensity with Israel and its war with Hamas. It was his decision to go ahead and invite Netanyahu coming to Congress. Pelosi is immediately questioning the wisdom of that invitation, just days after it was endorsed by Democrat leaders in both chambers. One of them, Congressman Vargas of California, Democrat, said, "I'm disappointed because I think it does make things more difficult for our leadership. Honestly, when she was Speaker, we hung with her. I was hoping she would hang with us." Then you got Congressman Lynch of Massachusetts, Democrat, who is now leaning toward boycotting Netanyahu's speech. He also added, Israel is an ally. Many of us support Israel without supporting Netanyahu. And I think that's the basis upon which Mr. Jeffries made his decision, a courtesy to an ally, not anything more. And obviously Pelosi was the former Speaker of the House. I think comments she's made are not helpful to our party. Nancy Pelosi, if she had still been there, she would not have extended an invitation to address both members of the House. Then the key is Biden going to take time to even greet Netanyahu when he comes? We're seeing a lot of changes across the world. We talked last week about the EU, how it was shaping up and moving, quote, more right. Now, it's not the same right that you think of in our country, but it is more conservative and certainly turning their back on the green agenda, the liberal policies that come with it all across Europe. And out of that, we're seeing that there may be a new French president shaking things up. He's a 28-year-old, Jordan Bardella, does not have a college degree, could be the French prime minister in a matter of weeks because they point out that he is part of the right movement, but not the far right movement. And again, France is one of those that says we're done with the EU and how it's costing us. We're dumping money in. We're getting nothing back. They raise that question. He is one of the new changes that we saw also coming out of Argentina with Javier Milei being elected. Folks in these countries are realizing we need to take better charge of our country. We cannot let this woke crowd, these leftist liberals, come in and start redirecting everything because often we are the ones who end up getting hurt. So we will have to see if Jordan Bardella is going to end up as prime minister in France in a matter of weeks. An advisor, former advisor to the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other politicians said, this is great news for the French people who suffered relentless attacks on their culture by the left-wing Macron and the millions of migrants he imported. They are just like us. They're against inflation they're battling with. They're against illegal immigration. They're against the government leaders inviting more to come in, taking away jobs of Americans, or in their case, of Frenchmen, or in Argentina, the same thing. So coming up, the Democrats, as I pointed out earlier, plan to spend $50 million in campaign ads attacking Donald Trump. They're going to spend that between now and the end of this month. They think they have a winning campaign. I want you to listen and decide when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
You want to give someone something which they will really enjoy? Give them a Cafe Napoli gift card. You pick the amount, and they pick which of the Cafe Napolis they want to visit. Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Cafe Napoli in Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, or right next door, Napoli C. The Napoli gift card. It's the perfect gift for anyone or your entire office. Cafe Napoli. Cafe Napoli.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering health care costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this.
And I would ask Joe Biden, are you out only for yourself? Because that's what you say Trump is out for, just for himself. I said I would ask you. That's part of that campaign they're releasing. They're building upon the conviction of Donald Trump. And they think that's a winning strategy. Do you think it will benefit him? Or is it going to be heard only by those who already made a decision to be against Biden or Trump? When they're dropping $50 million in ads in just between now and the end of the month, you're not going to be able to turn anywhere and not see the ad you just heard. And I hear people, I can hear you yelling. I can hear, even while I'm I can hear you yelling back. What about Hunter Biden? What about the Biden ties to Ukraine and the money and everything else? Unfortunately, I have to remind you that the DOJ conveniently let the time lapse on the IRS charges tying Hunter to Ukraine money and possibly daddy to it. They just, lost the calendar somewhere. And those are no longer prosecutable. In September, the IRS charges coming up are money he owed $1 million plus in back taxes. And they'll probably nail him on that as well. I don't see how they can get around it. In addition to the gun charge where he tried to get the sweetheart deal. But I want you to hear something that's almost startling. And I think it might be a come-to-Jesus moment for Jake Tapper of CNN.
Kessler from the Washington Post had a fact check about Joe Biden from earlier this month, noting that Hunter Biden admitted in court in July that he was in fact paid substantial sums from Chinese companies. Kessler wrote, Hunter Biden reported nearly $2.4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but, I mean, Trump was right.
Trump was right. Trump was right. That's Jake Tapper. And he's looking at that Washington Post column, he said, recently that pointed out there was a lot of money that came from Ukraine and China that went to Hunter Biden. And then we saw a lot of shell companies created. These are all documented. They're on bank forms and reports. They were flagging, the banks were doing their job to flag it with a questionable issue about where's this money coming from, who's getting it. And then, of course, you have, if you're getting money like that, you got to be reporting and paying taxes. And the Department of Justice did kind of look away because it was Hunter Biden. Listen, everyone would love to protect their children. But at this level, when you weaponize the DOJ, the IRS, the FBI to go after a political opponent and protect your own family at the same time, we need to have an accounting. Coming up in the next hour, the author of the book, Let Freedom Ring Again. You don't want to miss it. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit Cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
President Xi is really losing control.
People in China didn't ask me about people mowing each other down in a mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
Hate is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this. Illegal immigration is crazy right now. This United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
At newstalkstl.com. Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis.
Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
You guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for us covering the local angle.
People, this is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to join us for the Bluff City Outdoors radio show and podcast, where we talk fishing, hunting, camping, and everything else involving the great outdoors. Brought to you by Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, the Bluff City Outdoors Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m. right here on News Talk STL.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy conservative values in America.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Hey, it's Nick Schroer. To preserve this nation, to preserve the experiment in liberty that our founders envisioned, we must take a stand and fight. Join me Sunday nights at 8 p.m. only on News Talk STL.
Stand and fight with Nick Schroer. Brought to you by Missouri Wild Alchemy at MissouriWild.com. This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Biden, it's hard to overstate this. Biden and his team are totally out of touch with reality. They don't understand the real world. They don't understand the concept of having real enemies. They don't have any concept of strategy. And they sort of go from press conference to press conference, making it up as they go along. They've had no positive impact on Gaza. They've had no positive impact on Iran. They were a total failure in Afghanistan. And frankly, The Ukrainian war could have been solved much, much earlier with an effective, aggressive American government, and they've just drained it out in ways that kill Ukrainians and spend a great deal of American money.
Bingo, he nailed it on every point. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, all the failures during the Biden administration, specifically referenced the wars we're having. Ronald Reagan knew the way you put an end to those is you show them you're going to be strong, and you are strong. Donald Trump had made it very clear to them. Remember, Rocket Man kept firing those rockets, said, you need to back off of that, and even went to North Korea, the first president to do so. Joe Biden has bumbled everything, and as Newt Gingrich pointed out, they don't really have a strategy. Or they've got so many different people with different ideas, and they're trying to be woke and include and diversity and equity and inclusion, all these ideas, and they come up with a big fat zero, which also puts a target on the U.S. And as far as knowing what to do and how to do it, they are now infighting among the Democrats, amongst them, between former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and she's got her group inside the Democrat House and Senate as well, that don't like the fact that now Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, did extend an invitation for Benjamin Netanyahu to appear to a joint session of Congress. That invitation has to come from the Speaker. And when he made the decision, according to some, it was a stormy debate, hot topic, with increasing intensity because of Israel's war with Hamas and what the U.S. is doing to help support Israel, or not. So Pelosi has said basically she's questioning the wisdom of that invitation. This comes just days after the Democrats decided, okay, let's invite him to come speak. And one California congressman said, I'm really disappointed. It makes things more difficult for our leadership. We hung with her. I was hoping she'd do the same with us. Nope. Nancy Pelosi is not going to go that direction. Just as always, she's going to do it her way. In the past, she had the authority and the gavel to make sure it went her way. Now she doesn't. You got a Congressman Lynch of Massachusetts said, I'll probably boycott the speech just to protest the handling of the war. So boycott it. Or some of them will show up and they'll turn their back on him while he's speaking. And he's saying, look, I think the invitation was extended because Israel's an ally, but we're not in favor of Netanyahu and his government. Well, he just disbanded his war cabinet. He's restructuring it. Benny Gantz did resign the other day, considered to be more of a, let's get things done with a plan in mind as to what happens the day after. No one can make that plan until you get to the day after. You can formulate and talk, but that's not a plan until you hit that day. And Netanyahu's push has been, I want the hostages out. And these U.S. congressmen should remember we've got some Americans that are also being held hostage by Hamas. They have dual citizenship, but they're still Americans. So in July, he is coming. What will Biden do? Newt Gingrich again might say, again, they have no plan. They don't know. What's on the calendar today? Oh, that's right. What are we going to do now? Hey, thanks for joining us. You're into hour number 2 of Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. When we're on the air, we're streaming video. You can watch. You go to News Talk STL Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Larry Connors USA Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. And reminding you, you've missed anything, you can always pull up a part of the program you missed or just to replay it or to share it with friends, which I always encourage. LarryConnorsUSA.com or Larry Connors USA Facebook. Podcasts are there for you there and at numerous other podcast locations. So when you've got Newt Gingrich saying they don't know what they're doing, let me give you a perfect example that I'm going to tease for later in the program. The one thing they have decided they should do is put together a $50 million campaign to attack Trump, building upon his, quote, convictions. I'm going to let you hear that before we wrap up this segment. But they think that's a plan to win voters when already so much and so many in the nation question that we have a dual system and how the Justice Department has been weaponized by the Biden administration, not only to go after Trump and political enemies, but to protect Joe Biden and family, despite the conviction of Hunter Biden the other day. Which, by the way, Joe Biden has said, I think my son was convicted because it's the Justice Department warring upon my family. Really? Your AG is your right-hand minion. But you reach a point where you can't continually pull that over the eyes of the public. But they will try. This last weekend, Donald Trump joined numerous Republicans, conservatives, and many independents, and probably some Democrats in Michigan for a Turning Point rally hosted by Charlie Kirk and his group, and Trump was on fire.
Michigan was better off with Trump by a lot. You were doing great. Companies were moving back, and the car companies weren't moving out. And Joe Biden and his cronies in Washington got rich by selling off Michigan jobs and selling out Detroit. That's what they did. The numbers are crazy. The food numbers, the energy numbers. Yet Joe Biden has no plan. He's got absolutely no plan. He doesn't even know what the word inflation means. Joe Biden still supports no cash bail and sanctuary cities. He's responsible for the deaths of countless African Americans from crime, and he also devastated black families in 1994 with the crime bill. Biden came up with that. Super predators. The black people have to remember when they go to vote. That was 1994 crime bill. Super predators, Joe Biden.
And Hillary Clinton. I want to make sure we add Hillary Clinton. She was also using that term and throwing it around. Actually, even before Biden, if I recall correct. Now, many that were at this Detroit, Michigan rally were black officials in various capacities. One was a black pastor that was on a committee chair or chairing a panel that Trump was part of. And his statements, they basically tell you the tone of America and minority groups and how they're looking at Donald Trump nowadays. This black pastor.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Very humble, really nice. Thank you. My honor.
There's another one who was at that panel, Brandon Orlando Tatum, also known as the Officer Tatum. He served 7 years with the Arizona SWAT team. Now he has his own commentary program and pieces he puts up on podcasts. He was also speaking there, and he said, I see only one man that can truly rally our nation.
Just fed up, and I know that you guys feel the same way. This is such a great and incredible country where so many people can come together and unite and build something special. There ain't nowhere else on earth that you'll see the things that happen in America. You won't see it anywhere else. You won't see this much diversity anywhere else. All these cowards do is complain about America, what America ain't. You'll never see them go to a country and they'll experience the things that we see. It would never happen in the history.
I agree, and that's why, again, I say all these useful idiots on the college campuses that are out there protesting against Israel, why don't you transfer your college transfer papers over to Tehran and go to college there and see how you're treated? And especially those of you who hold up a banner saying queers for Palestine. Let's see how long you last in that country. Joe Concha, Fox News analyst, was saying in watching over something Don Lemon Fruitcake had posted, and he said, here's a piece of information to consider.
I saw an X post from Don Lemon, the former CNN anchor, scare quotes, and he basically said it was impossible for him to believe that Donald Trump could possibly have that kind of black support in places like Detroit, with Don Lemon implying the whole scene you see, on your screen was likely staged somehow. It wasn't, and the momentum behind Trump is quite real. Not only among black voters, by the way, but Hispanic voters, independent voters, women voters. And according to a forecast released by The Economist over the weekend, Donald Trump now has a 69% chance of winning back the presidency, while Joe Biden's chances are 31%. That's less than 1 in 3. We've never seen numbers like this before for Trump.
Now, again, that's Joe Concha. He's an analyst with Fox News. Okay, Larry, he's giving us a right-wing view. Fine. I always give you the source, and so you can check it out yourself. Let me give you a source from CNN. This is their CNN senior political reporter, and said, look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points in 2020. 83 points. Now it's 74 points. He said, I keep seeing all of this drop off, a slight decline in margin, nothing out of the world, but look at the black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks, holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020, and right now he's at 37 points. That's CNN. In the meantime, Democrats are rolling out $50 million to spend through the rest of this month on a new campaign ad that they think is a winner.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering health care costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this.
Yeah, he approves that message because he didn't mention that I'm also out for myself and protecting my son Hunter and my family. Laura Trump, the son of Eric Trump, or rather the daughter of Eric Trump, who is Donald Trump's son, now co-chair of the RNC, also showed up at the event in Detroit.
It is because of the enthusiasm and support all across this country for one man, the man who didn't need this job in the first place the day he came down those escalators in Trump Tower. He has been with a target on his back every day from that moment up until today. They have done everything in their power to take this man down, and not only is he still standing in the face of all of it, he is still fighting, because I believe that Donald Trump was made for such a time as this. And he will save this country and give it back to we, the people.
We certainly hope so, pray so, and vote so. And she's right. They've been on him from the beginning. I know I've mentioned it before. Bear with me if you've heard it. But most presidents, when they first come into office, they get somewhat of a honeymoon grace period. Trump never had that. From day one, that very night, they started plotting against him. And it has been consistent. Inaccurate, so-called Russian collusion, we now know is a lie. We now know that those 51 intel agents that signed off that the Hunter Biden laptop was false and are full of Russian propaganda, they all lied. And I still bet not one of them ever looked at the laptop. They were just asked, will you sign this letter demeaning and criticizing Trump? Oh, yeah, give me that thing. Laura Trump is right on top of it. But we still have Joe Biden to contend with. Now, Jill Biden spoke out in his defense over the weekend, and she wanted to make it clear to you. There's not a big difference in age. Quit making an issue over the age.
This election is most certainly not about age.
Joe and that other guy are essentially the same age. Let's not be fooled. Joe isn't one of the most effective presidents of our lives in spite of his age, but because of it.
Yeah, well, it's not so much the age issue, it's the ability at his age. And Trump, by the time he actually reaches Joe's age in 2-3 years, maybe he will have the same debilitating effects as well. If so, I say then he needs to step aside if he's in the White House. And I'll repeat it again if I need to. But putting all of that aside, if you're looking for real issues, and age is a concern for many people, but again, it's not the age, it's what can you do at that age? I mean, if you're looking at simply age being the best marker, both of them in their 80s, should we have someone who's 15 be president? No. And experience comes with age, supposedly. With most people, it does. But when you have Jake Tapper on CNN admit, based upon notes from a Washington Post article, we've had Joe Biden lying to the nation and getting away with it.
Kessler from the Washington Post had a fact check about Joe Biden from earlier this month, noting that Hunter Biden admitted in court in July that he was in fact paid substantial sums from Chinese companies. Kessler wrote, Hunter Biden reported nearly $2.4 million in income in 2017 and $2.2 million in income in 2018, most of which came from Chinese or Ukrainian interests. But this directly goes against what Joe Biden said in the debate in 2020 with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about what are you talking about? China.
Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but, I mean, Trump was right.
Trump is right. And Hunter admitted in court, yeah, in 2018, I made about $2.1 million in deals with Ukraine and China. And before that, I'd made more. Why isn't he on trial for those? Why are those not brought up? Because the statute of limitations ran out. The Department of Justice just kind of lost track of those, and they forgot about them. Of course, he still faces charges in September on not paying $1 million in taxes more recently. Coming up, the author of a new book, Let Freedom Ring Again. We got a lot to cover the rest of this hour. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
Question: do you know what vermiculite is? It is an insulation in the attics of hundreds of thousands of homes and public buildings. Looks like kitty litter, but often contains asbestos. Wellington Environmental is the largest company in the Midwest that can remove that hazard for you. Wellington has what is called the General, a powerful industrial vacuum that can suck vermiculite out of the attic. Hang on, there's something else you should know. Many of you might qualify for up to a $4,000 rebate. You should at least contact Wellington to see if you qualify. And here's something else. Wellington arrives at the time they give you, not sometime within 4 hours. 314-644-4930. 644-4930. WellingtonSTL.com. WellingtonSTL.com. Wellington Environmental. Your world. Cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis. Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for us covering the local angle.
Come on, people. This is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
I have a personal story about why I trust McGuire Moving and Storage. A relative needed to escape an unhealthy relationship. Josh, Christine, and the McGuire team were understanding, even comforting. That's why I'm honored to endorse McGuire. Since 1935, McGuire's been moving and caring for families. So, moving a home, office, local, or long distance, McGuireMoving.com. McGuireMoving.com.
My name is Todd Showalter, and I'm announcing The Right Mind Show is officially running Saturday nights at 5. I'll now open the floor for questions.
Is The Right Mind Show funny at all?
No comment. Next question. Yeah, you, different reporter with the same voice.
Your co-host is very cute.
Not a question. I've got time for one more.
Do you do any impressions on The Right Mind Show?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's Joe Biden getting out of bed.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, now open in the district of Chesterfield Valley. Napoli has the only coal-fired pizza oven. That means an incredible taste you cannot get anywhere else. So enjoy a unique pizza at Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district. And then walk a few doors down and enjoy premium cigars and drinks at Lit Cigar Lounge. There's a perfect way to end the evening. Napoli Pizza followed by Lit Cigar Lounge. A winning combination.
This is News Talk STL.
Now this nation that I love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back. Soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist, and an eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here when you hear Mother Freedom start ringing her bell, and it'll feel like the whole wide world is raining down on you.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. My guest is George C. Landreth. He's president of the Frontiers of Freedom, also a constitutional law expert. Just released a new book, Let Freedom Ring Again. George, first of all, glad to have you on board, sir.
It is great to be with you. It's my honor to be here.
Well, I took note that you've got a piece, Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Paul, wrote part of an endorsement for you saying, Let Freedom Ring Again challenges us to renew our commitment to the ideals of our founding fathers and accurately preserve the freedoms that make America a beacon of hope and opportunity. And I say amen, because that's what we need to be and remain. And where do you think we stand now?
Well, I'm kind of concerned about where we stand now, because to be honest, the current trajectory, if this were an airline plane we were on, we'd be looking out the window and realizing that we're getting closer and closer to the side of a mountain. And we'd meet a time to change our trajectory, or in the next little while we might crash. So
get the pilot out and put another pilot in there, right?
Exactly. Well, that's how we'll change our trajectory, because this pilot has made it very clear that he likes our current trajectory, and he's very happy to fly the plane literally into the side of a mountain.
George, this last weekend, as you well know, Turning Point USA had an event in Detroit, Michigan. Trump, obviously the featured speaker, and he pointed out just how bad Biden had been for the Michigan economy in particular, Detroit, home of our cars originally. But when you look at what has been done to the automotive industry, and then you begin to spread it across other big and small and even mom and pop businesses, how do you see the destruction?
Well, I think it's widespread. Some of it is constitutional destruction. Some of it is economic opportunity destruction. Some of it is societal destruction. To be honest, the Biden administration and the extreme left have been what I would call equal opportunity destroyers. They're prepared to destroy everything in their path. And so that's why we see our economy, we actually, an example would be, they now act like a bunch of part-time jobs being added to the economy is a big plus, even when we're losing good-paying full-time jobs. And it's just like, that makes no sense, because they tell us that you can't the whole argument for higher minimum wage is you can't support a family on minimum wage. Well, guess what? You can't support a family on a part-time job either.
And that's the other thing about these economic numbers. When we see the jobs increasing, many of them went to the federal government, and some were second and third jobs for families.
Right. And second and third jobs are not really are not friendly for the family, because then all of a sudden now you have a much harder time managing your time. You have less time to spend with your kids, less time to help them with their homework, all the things that being a parent requires of you. Instead, now you're just because the Biden administration has been destroying the economy, you're having to effectively, that's kind of what I would call a tax on you. And it's really stunning. But it's not just that, it's societal. I mean, an example would be, it used to be that girls' sports were considered, important, and they were protected legally and allowed to, and all of a sudden now you are a bad person if you oppose the idea of having men knock women off the awards ceremony stand. It's like, really? That makes you a bad person? It seems to me that may, it's next thing you know, they're going to demand that adults be able to play in youth leagues.
Oh, sure. Why not? So, let an adult play in a little league. Why not? I mean, exactly. Why can't you?
Yeah, and then of course heavyweights should be able to fight in the lightweight division as well. There should be, it's like all this stuff is just, we've always had these ways of creating competition and making sure that people have the opportunity to compete fairly, and all of a sudden we're gonna blow all that up.
Well, since you brought up Title IX, I'll tell the listeners after this interview, I am going to focus on Title IX. We have a new ruling today blocking more efforts to, allow men to play in girls' sports. We had a ruling last week, and now we got another one, so it's expanding to additional states. They're saying enough is enough. We cannot continue to let this LGBTQ woke philosophy dominate women's sports, destroy it, actually. But then you get to the issue of liberty and prosperity.
And that's the good news, Go ahead. I was going to say, that's the good news, is that a certain amount of rationality seems to be taking over. And that's very helpful. And I'm hoping that continues. And I'm hoping that on a host of issues, whether it's the idea that the Constitution matters, whether it's the idea the rule of law matters, whether it's the idea that freedom and opportunity matter, I'm hoping we can get back to being rational, reasonable people and not being a bunch of essentially statists who want to just create ever bigger government that controls every detail of your life.
Well, rational, reasonable people, I use that phrase in quotes on the other side, say our court is out of kilter. I mean, look at the bump stock ruling the other day, 6-3, Roe v. Wade being overturned. We either need to expand the number of judges on the court, mainly so we can put in more liberal justices, and those are we want a justice who's going to look at the Constitution, not political views.
Well, that's certainly how I feel. But the funny thing is that they are lying to you when they say they want judges that, if the left ever says we want judges that just view the Constitution, of course they don't. What they want is judges, because the bump stock rule, we have legislation that deals, and it's been around for quite a while, with machine guns. And they tried to essentially say the bump stock is a machine gun, and the court said, well, actually, it's not. And if Congress wants to treat it as one, then it has every right to, it can do that. And but it hasn't done that, and the court's not going to do that for them. That's their job. We're not going to legislate from the bench. So that strikes me as the decision was correct, even if you say, like, let's say a listener's saying to themselves, the bump stock shouldn't exist. But it's like, fine. But if that's your position, that's fine. Then get Congress to pass a law doing that. Don't ask courts to just create law on your behalf. That's not democratic. There are no checks and balances on that. And it's just so when I listen to a leftist tell me they value the idea of a judge that follows the Constitution, I just laugh, because that's not true. They don't at all.
Well, since we're on the Constitution and something like bump stocks, we do have weapons and we have laws and we have different things that have happened that I don't know that the founding fathers could really foresee that far in. And yet at the same time, what they wrote seems it can be applied to today's cases. But what's your thought about what they didn't know when they formed the Constitution?
Well, I think one of the geniuses of the Constitution is it wasn't based on, for example, they didn't know about things like computers and hard drives, and yet the constitutional, the first 10 amendments has certain protections in there that still apply and basically say that you have a right to privacy within, your private information, and that they have to get a warrant. And so I think the genius of the Constitution is it wasn't so specific that it only applied to handwritten documents. It was generalized, and it was designed to essentially protect against aggressive government and so it's done an amazing job of that. And I think the same thing's true with firearms. Their basic premise, I believe, was that the populace has the right to be armed to protect itself, and on some level, because of their experience with the British Redcoats and the if you recall Paul Revere's Ride,
right,
that was designed to warn them that the Redcoats were coming, that they were coming to take their guns.
You're listening to George Landreth.
Like, yeah, we don't want government doing that.
You're listening to George Landreth, author of the book Let Freedom Ring Again. And a final question here. There are a lot of folks who believe the concept of limited government is outdated, that we need to basically, I think they're suggesting, go more socialist. Your thoughts before we close out.
Well, I think limited government is an important part of us being a united nation. And by that I mean that because if government's going to dictate every detail of your life, what you have for breakfast, what you wear to work, all the, how you raise your children, then it's really hard to be united. But if the government basically just limits itself and says, you know what, we're just going to deal with the major kind of societal issues. We'll deal with crime. We'll deal with, trying to have interstate commerce, other kind of things, then it's a lot easier to be more united. And so it seems to me that if you have a government that does not have these limitations on it, then you guarantee that we will, as a nation, be far less united. And we used to be fairly united. You go back and read speeches from people like John F. Kennedy.
Right. We were.
His speeches were not anti-American. What happened? The answer is big government.
And he would not fit in today's Democrat Party. George Landreth, thank you for your time. You're right. Author of the book, Let Freedom Ring Again. Coming up, we'll talk more about Title IX and Volunteer Army.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
John Beal knows that new roofing companies can look big and trustworthy on the internet, but the fact is 96% of new roofing companies go out of business within the first 5 years. John Beal has a reputation for excellence, reliability, plus lowest cost, best roof, best guarantee. Those here today, gone tomorrow roofers, they can't match John Beal. For home or business, trust my friend John. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811, brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Have you seen the 2024 Toyota RAV4? Boy, that's an outstanding vehicle, and Ackerman Toyota has one just for you at the best price. Ackerman is the #1 volume Toyota dealer in the area. Want a Camry? Maybe you want something bigger. A Toyota crossover. All the performance of an SUV, but a more compact size. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, please visit usdeputy.org.
If you like premium cigars and spirits, take my advice. Check out Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. The Lit Cigar owners just got back from a major convention in Vegas, and now every day, Lit is getting shipments of special cigars that will certainly amaze you. Check the Lit Cigar Facebook, staying on top of special events. Also, Lit can host a private event for you, your friends, your business. LitSTL.com. LitSTL.com. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
This is News Talk STL.
Boom, 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 boom. Gonna shoot you right down. Take you
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
So as I was mentioning previously, and I want to go back over it again, we do have Netanyahu scheduled to come to the U.S. and address a joint session of Congress next month. But there's already a lot of backlash going on, and no surprise that there is. It's just that in this case, it's very focused on Nancy Pelosi. She is no longer House Speaker. She doesn't think he should be here, and she is weighing in on it, and some of the Democrat leaders are upset that she's doing so. They wanted her to kind of go along with the rest of them once they decided, after obviously heated debate, if they were going to invite Netanyahu here. Some members of Congress have suggested we may boycott when he does show up for his joint session. I wouldn't be surprised if some show up and then just turn their back on him while he's speaking. It would be shameful either way. He's a leader of a nation, one of our allies, our only ally that we can trust in the Middle East. And Chuck Schumer, being Jewish as well, leader of the Senate, I'm surprised he's not really voicing support for Netanyahu coming, but he isn't. The only noise I've heard has come from Nancy Pelosi, and it was Hakeem Jeffries, the current leader of the House, minority leader, thank God, not the majority leader. We need to make sure we keep it that way this election, that he worked it out with other members of the Democrats to agree, let's go ahead and invite him. But one of them said, I think Jeffries made the decision basically because Israel is an ally. Many of us support Israel without supporting Netanyahu. Well, right now, how do you break the two apart? How can you? Yes, there's dissension inside Israel. That's understood. But it's also a time that Israel is at war with a group that wants to kill them. Hamas, Hezbollah, and all the other nations around Israel. You're not going to see anything come through that's going to help make things better anytime soon. Why would you not want to hear from the world leader of a nation that is involved in this conflict? And yes, we are sending money. How many times have we had Zelensky come to the U.S.? Or Biden and company go to Zelensky for Ukraine? But these Democrats, they face within their own squad the woke crowd. As I was mentioning to our guest a moment ago, JFK would not be welcomed by today's Democrat Party. I'm not even sure that Barack Obama would be fully endorsed at this point. But the bottom line was Jeffries of the House getting with Schumer of the Senate, and they did endorse a letter earlier this month. Jeffrey said, we made the decision that we're going to take the same approach that we've taken with other heads of state. I think that is appropriate. Pelosi, however, still disagrees. In fact, in an appearance on CNN, she had said earlier this was wrong to invite him. It would only fuel the already heightened domestic unrest surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I feel very sad he's been invited. And Hamas and PLO supporters have said they will shut down D.C. when he arrives. They will shut everything down. We will see if that happens. But just because you fear that the public will be speaking out and upset because he's here, that's not a reason to reject his appearance. But unfortunately, politics comes into play when we need most of all statesmanship. We're not going to get it from folks like Nancy Pelosi and the rest of them. To their credit, Jeffries and Schumer agreed to send a letter of invitation. But I'll remind you what was going on previously with Schumer, because before that invitation was actually put out there, he had not too long ago basically made it clear that he didn't like Netanyahu or the way Israel is doing things. But, again, Schumer is walking whichever path that will make him look better. We all know that. All right, we were mentioning in the previous segment with our guest also the Title IX. I told you last week that a federal judge had temporarily blocked a new rule, Biden's new Title IX rule, that would expand protections for LGBTQ plus students. And that blocked the new rule from taking effect in only 4 states, Idaho, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Montana. Now today, another federal judge has blocked the Biden administration's new Title IX rule, expanding in 6 additional states: Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia. All of this has to do, of course, basically to protect women. That this new Title IX proposed by Biden would undermine equal opportunities for women. And clearly it would. You can't have, as we were discussing with the guest earlier, adult men playing in Little League Baseball. I mean, talk about wiping out kids and winning everything. You can't have men posing as women, and even if they've had some transgender surgery, they're still born a male. They should play in the sport of their birth. One response from the Kentucky Attorney General said, "The judge's order makes clear the U.S. Department of Education's attempt to redefine sex to include gender identity is unlawful and beyond the agency's regulatory authority." And yet the lawsuit filed by the Education Department continues to push forward. They had another lawsuit they put in place Friday asking Missouri to deny a request for a preliminary injunction that had actually been filed last month by Republican attorneys general from Missouri, Arkansas, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And the Department of Education said enjoining the rule would, and I'm quoting, in other words, preventing the rule from going into effect that Biden wants would, quote, substantially harm the federal government's interest in preventing discrimination in federally funded educational programs and activities. That is all backwards, totally backwards. The intent of Title IX in the very beginning was solid. If you are a school taking federal dollars, you must provide opportunity for women's sports as much as you do for male sports. Even within male sports, certain categories come to the top. Football in the South, that's going to be a top sport. Not so much fencing. But if you got a fencing team and you can put it together, you're going to have it. And then you have sports that could include men and women. And things that would be considered sport, at least in a challenger or a basis of a winner-loser chess competition. The size of the man against the woman means nothing. It would become ability. But when you put men and women on the field together in a contact sport, you're going to have collisions, you're going to have damage, you're going to have possible permanent injuries. There is nothing under the education department as proposed by Biden that protects women. When did we suddenly decide women are not worthy of protection? I would venture to say even members of the LGBTQ plus community, and I know some, so I know I'm speaking the truth, some of them are not in favor of any of this. It not only demoralizes some of them, it demonizes them. They just want to live their lives. And now this is thrown around their neck because somewhere in one school, a boy decides, I want to be a girl, I want to dress and change with the girls in the locker room, and I want to play in their sport so I can win. Don't bother looking for anything that makes sense there. You're not going to find it. Which brings me to the next point of the consideration, that should the draft be reinstated. There's a great piece in the Federalist today by Philip Reichert, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who is a Fox News producer, but also a former U.S. Army intelligence analyst. And he says the military's biggest problem is readiness, not recruiting. He said if Biden really believed that, quote, we are the world power, our military infrastructure wouldn't be steadily diminishing under his leadership. He said, yes, they're falling short of goals to be enlisted, but you need those who are qualified and properly prepared, trained, and equipped. General Patton once stated, Americans love to fight. All real Americans love the sting and clash of battle. Yeah, but then again, when it's actually in the field and mud and blood and guts are everywhere, the sting is no longer there, only the pain and the suffering. But again, we must have a strong military. Selective service, age is 18 to 26, I think it is now. If you are that age, you must register with the civil service. You still must do so. Now, back to trying to distinguish between men and women, and therefore comes a push for Pride Month. Here, I want you to hear a response to someone who said, I've had it with Pride Month.
I hate Pride Month. And not because I care about who you want to love, but because I'm sick of the corporate pandering. I'm sick of seeing all-age drag men wrapped in fishnets and BDSM outfits or grinding their man bulges into the faces of children. I am sick of society pushing children to transition. I am tired of men dressing up as women to victimize other women in sports, public restrooms, locker rooms, and life. We have pride flags painted on our sidewalks. They're flying from our embassies. They're hanging in our schools. And yet a group that claims to be so deeply marginalized has an entire month dedicated to one of the 7 deadly sins. And I'm supposed to tolerate it? What once was a call for people to just mind their business and love who they want to love has turned into a campaign to force people, regardless of religious beliefs, to accept a certain way of life that they don't want to accept, and a trend to destroy childhood innocence and an attempt to validate sick adults, and I want no part of it. The only rainbow I celebrate is God's promise, and the only pride I want to have is the pride for my country.
Well stated. I would like to give you the full source for that, but I got that from Ken Williams, the producer of the Vic Perselli Show, Ken Thunderstealer Williams. He sent it to me, and I sent a text back. I said, give me the source and the name, who's speaking, and we just haven't made contact back. But I thought I'm still going to air it. It's obviously someone that says, I'm sick of bearded men running around in dresses, exposing their man bulges to children, and basically shoving it in their face. I think we all should be sick of that. If you care about your children, you should be sick of it. And speaking of Pride Month and giving all that attention for a full month, one of my favorite actors has always been, well, before I name him, I'll tell you, there's several actors I like their work on the screen, entertainers in various venues, music. Barbra Streisand, beautiful voice. Her classical album is one that would just take you away, in my view. But her politics will turn me away. But I appreciate their ability, and I can separate from their politics. This Oscar-winning actor has turned his back on Black History Month and said, I detest it. Morgan Freeman, Shawshank Redemption, The Dark Knight Trilogy, and so many others. He said the very idea of a Black History Month makes my teeth itch. He said, you're going to give me the shortest month in a year and you're going to celebrate my history? This whole idea makes my teeth itch. It's not right. He said, my history is American history. It's the one thing in this world I'm interested in, beyond making money, having a good time, getting enough sleep. Morgan Freeman. It's been in his sights in anger prior to recently. He's described it and the term African American as an insult. He said, two things I can say publicly I do not like. Black History Month is an insult. You're going to relegate my history to a month, as I said. And also African American is an insult. I don't subscribe to that title. Black people have had different titles all the way back to the N-word, and I do not know how these things get such a grip, but everyone now using African American. And again, he said, I don't want a Black History Month. Morgan Freeman. I don't want a White History Month or Hispanic History Month. I don't want an LGBTQ History Month and Pride Month. I want an American month. I think that's something Morgan Freeman already has endorsed. As always, I thank you for listening, sharing the word with others. We're gaining more and more listeners because of you. Thank you. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.